Hello, it's just me again. Um, I'm gonna make another video on something different. It does have to do with small towns. I graduated high school from a small town. Personally, I think small towns suck, but I'm only here temporarily, as I had mentioned in my other video. I graduated out of a class of 130 something. A lot of them were pricks to me. It's because when I was in 8th grade, Mom and Dad were like, we've had enough of Minneapolis. We're going to move to this small town where it's safer. And a lot of the kids didn't care for me because I was from Minneapolis and I wasn't beautiful and rich and I didn't fit into their precious little fucking cliques. And as I went on throughout high school, I was a big band geek. So, 3 strikes against me right there. I had this one piece of shit douchebag jock who, unfortunately, I had to ride a bus with. I mean, he had acne like a motherfucker. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not my nature to poke fun at those with acne or anything. I mean, I know you guys can't help that. It fucking sucks, I'm guessing. I mean, I'm well aware that it sucks for a lot of people, but I mean, this guy was he was a total asshole, though. He kept calling me Thunder Thighs and saying all this disgusting shit towards me, and he was much bigger than me. And it's like, I wanted to, some people were calling him the zit monster behind his back. The thing is, as crooked as my teeth are, I'd kind of like to keep all of them. But I avoided him as much as possible. But, he's probably still a piece of shit today. I mean, he was a jock with a very arrogant attitude. I mean, he was on the football and the basketball teams, and yeah, he thought his shit didn't stink. And it wasn't just him, there was a lot of jocks too that were like that. I tried to be friendly towards everybody, but I was a nerd, and I was this, I was that, and some of the bullying I probably did bring on myself. Some of it I probably did. A lot of the other stuff, though, excuse me. A lot of the other stuff, however, was uncalled for. I mean, I tried to be nice to everybody. I tried fitting in, but after a while I just said, fuck it. I mean, even people that weren't that mean to me in school, yeah, I mean, some of them had their moments, but it was just mainly the jocks, cheerleader, preppy types that were just douchebags to me. Well, there's another girl, too. She was an absolute cunt. I don't always like to use that word, but in her case, it fit. I recall being in sophomore English class, and I had an eye doctor appointment, but I didn't specify that when I was telling the teacher. I just told the teacher I had to leave because of a doctor's appointment. And this bitch, she's like, oh, what's the matter? Are you having vaginal issues? Do you not feel fresh down there? And I just looked at her and I'm like, you're saying all this shit to me over an eye appointment? And she's just a bitch. I've seen her recently on Facebook, and she claims to be a stay-at-home mom, supposedly married. I mean, she talked all this shit to me, and she looks like shit now, too. I mean, she looks old. As far as I'm concerned, that's what she gets. And that's the best part about getting older and dealing with bullies. I don't have to lift a finger to wreak revenge or anything. Time does that for me. And she's got 2 kids, and if she were to ever contact me, I would be like, do you know who the father of your children are, or am I going to see you in a future episode of Maury? If she were to ever contact me, that is exactly what I would ask her. She didn't give 2 shits about my feelings, so... And that's just it with a lot of these people. It's like, you didn't think I was good enough to talk to you then, and I don't think... And it's like, I don't think you're good enough for me to talk to now. So to those of you who are getting bullied right now in high school, it sounds very cliche, and you're probably tired of hearing it, but believe me, it does get better. The jocks and cheerleaders that thought they were just shit hot, usually turn out to have the shittiest lives afterwards. Because they think they're going to ride that gravy train. They're going to have those glory days forever. It's usually not the case. Half the time, the cheerleaders will, either have 3 kids by 3 different dads, or get married to the football player that beats the shit out of them, or it's always something. Especially in small towns, I also notice that a lot of the jocks and the cheerleader types stick around in their small towns because, if they were to move out, they know they wouldn't be shit. No one would give 2 shits about them. Unfortunately, though, I've run into a few of my classmates since I've moved back here for the time being. One I saw today, she was a complete bitch in school. She's gained a few pounds since then. I mean, that's not why I'm thinking she's a bitch. I mean, my weight tended to fluctuate. But she still had that attitude of, oh, I'm the shit, blah, blah, blah. I mean, she's dating this guy who's covered in tattoos, and it's like, I thought he was sexy until I found out that he was with her. If there were to ever be any time where if he were to hit on me, I'll be like, no. You're with her. You've already proven that you have completely shitty taste in women. So she'll never have to worry about me stealing her man, because I wouldn't want him. I mean, who knows? I mean, if I were to ever hook up with this dude, I'd probably get every disease in the book, plus a few new ones. So no, that's not going to happen. Another classmate of mine showed up during the 4th of July weekend. He's actually living in Wisconsin now, but he showed up on his bike, and my coworker was drooling over him, which I thought was kind of amusing. He was pretty scrawny back in high school, but he's bulked out since then. He was riding a Harley. Part of me was tempted to be Facebook friends with him until I saw his friend list, and he's friends with a good chunk of the assholes who were mean to me, so I'm like, no. If he were to friend request me now, which I doubt, but if he did, I would have to turn him down. There is no potential, there is no possible way I could be Facebook friends with any of these people. I have been friends with some of them in the past, but after a bit I decided that it was just too much. I know, 17 years after I've graduated high school, the hurt doesn't go completely away. It lessens over time, until it turns into a dull, more of a dull pain. But the pain doesn't go completely away. There's always some small part that's always going to be hurt by that. And, well, there was one girl that I was friends with in high school. She didn't graduate with our class. She would have had she stuck around, but she ended up moving during part of her senior year. And so she and I were talking. She was on her second husband when we were talking to her. Her first husband was in the Navy. As a matter of fact, I was on a submarine tender in the Navy, and my ship was working on his sub, as it turns out. But anyway, she was saying that she divorced her first husband because he ended up cheating on her numerous times. And so she had a kid from that marriage. She's now married to an Army guy, and she has a few more kids from him. And I mentioned before that I was in the military myself for several years. I never got married, never had kids. I would like to get married at some point, maybe. We'll see what happens. But at this point, it's not gonna, break my heart completely if I don't get married. From what I've seen, and from what I've observed, and from what I've heard from other people complaining about their marriages, I really wonder if it's going to be worth it. But anyway, back to her. So she's on her second husband, and, they have a few kids together, and then she's got her first kid from her first marriage. And so she and I were talking, and she's going, oh, do you have kids? And I'm like, no. Well, how come? I'm like, well, at that time I was with that idiot ex of mine. And he and I definitely were not talking children. No way. And I go, well, my boyfriend and I aren't really going to want children. We're not even talking about that at this point. And I don't ever want them anyway. And she's like, oh, why not? And I'm like, I just don't want them. And, she started bingoing me. Oh, you'll change your mind. They're wonderful. You should have at least one. And I'm like, well, you know what? if you're going to keep badgering me about this shit, then I have nothing more to say to you. If you were really my friend, you would accept me as I am and accept the fact that I don't have children and accept the idea that I will never want them. I mean, if she were truly happy about being a parent, she wouldn't care that I don't want kids. Instead, she does the classic breeder bingo bullshit. I've since then cut her off. She hasn't tried to contact me since then, and that is perfectly fine by me. There was another one that I've talked to. She actually went to the 10-year reunion, and she said people acted exactly as they did in high school. Jocks and preppies in one side of the room, and everybody else scattered about. This same woman also got knocked up in college. She dropped out. She hasn't been back to school since. Which personally I think is kind of sad, but she made her own decisions, and they're her decisions, not mine. And then there's another classmate who became a grandma. She had a kid in high school, and that kid now had a kid, and she's graduated high school just now. And she looks like shit. Sorry to say it, but she looks horrible. I'm like, well, you're a grandma at 36. Don't you think you could have educated your kid a little more on teen pregnancy since you went through it yourself? Yeah, whatever. She made her bed made lie, that's it. I mean, I've run into classmates over the years since I left school and went in the military and come back on leave to visit mom and the boys. I had this one guy, he was a douchebag to me, and he bought me a couple drinks. And we were talking, and I've told him I was in the military and I've seen the world. He's like, I am jealous of you. He ended up getting his girlfriend knocked up while she was still in high school. They're now married, and they have several kids. He's like, don't get me wrong, I love my wife. I love my children. Go get it. Playing fetch with the other cat. Sorry. So, he's like, I love my wife and kids, don't get me wrong. But I feel stuck to this fucking town. On the outside, I was kind of sympathetic. I felt bad for him, but on the inside, I was laughing. And again, bed made lie. I don't feel sorry for him. People learn to use rubbers and birth control pills. I mean, learn to use birth control for fuck's sake. I saw him the last time I was working at the store 2 summers ago. I don't think he remembered talking to me, but that's fine. I wasn't really willing to go down memory lane anyway. And he had 2 teenage girls with him, which I'm assuming are his daughters, and they were bugging him for this and that. Sorry, I'm itchy again. They were bugging him for this and that, and he looked old and worn down. And again, feeling sorry for him was the last thing I was gonna do. And again, I've seen people here and there. There was another classmate of mine. She was the principal's daughter. She and I we weren't really antagonistic towards each other in school. But I've run into her a couple of times. The first time, my mom and I went to a bar, and there was a bachelorette party, and it turned out to be her bachelorette party, and she was going to marry this asshole jock. And she told me who she was marrying. I'm like, you're marrying him? And she's all, oh, but he's so sweet. He's so wonderful now. I'm like, well, you gotta live with him. I don't. Excuse me. And I've run into her a few times since then. Her dad, I do have to give her props. When he was the principal and the pimply-faced asshole I was telling you about from the beginning of the video, I'm drinking a can of Squirt. I just happen to be drinking a can of Squirt in the hall. And he's like, hey, you like a little squirt here and there? And, this classmate's dad, the principal, he got pissed off. It turned out that the pimply creep was trying to go out with his daughter. He's like, you, get your ass in my office now. I don't know what he said to him, but I'm assuming he chewed him out and he basically said, "You're not going to date my daughter." So I do give him props for that. But anyway, back to her. My mom and her boyfriend at the time and I all went out to a bar, and she happened to be there. And she and I were talking, and she's like, I'm really sorry for the way people treated you. And she's like, I'm really sorry for what I did. I'm like, well, you didn't do anything. And she's like, exactly. I was friends with a lot of these people that picked on you, and I should have done something about it, and I didn't. I mean, I wasn't necessarily mad at her. It's like, kids going against, against the order of things, I guess, so to speak. People going against the popular people, that's like social suicide. It fucking sucks. I wish this jock and preppy worship would be done away with in the first place, but who knows. I tried keeping in touch with her, but after I found out that she had kids with that asshole she married, it's like, no. And there were other people trying to be friends with me on Facebook. I'm like, well, you didn't want to talk to me then. Why the fuck should I talk to you now? Oh yeah, the 10-year reunion thing. I was living in Virginia at the time. I was on my way out of the military. I was on terminal leave when I got this email from classmates.com, which I joined forever ago, mainly for the military part of it. So I get this email from classmates.com, and this bitch. She was an absolute bitch to me. We were in band together, and we were in German class together, and there was this guy in our German class who was kind of teasing me. Me and him were kind of teasing each other back and forth. I don't know what her deal was. I don't know if she liked him at the time, but as far as I know, this bitch married her longtime boyfriend. So who knows? But anyway, she felt the need to needle me on and pick on me during German class. And she has the nerve to write me an email talking about, oh, I'd really like it if you could come to the 10-year reunion. Oh, and if you know anybody from our class, invite them along, blah, blah, blah. I wrote back to her and I go, why on earth would I want to waste my money, drive halfway across the country to mingle with people who didn't give two shits about me? A lot of you have picked on me. A lot of you were mean to me. And I go, but once I got out of school, I took a year off, and after that, I went in the military, and I seen the world. What the fuck have you done? I went around the world. I've seen things. I've done things. And I tried to forget about you guys, and I drank to try to forget about you guys, but I couldn't forget every single thing you guys have done to me. And I go, why on earth would I want to waste any of my precious time with people who hated me then and who I hate now? I know those weren't the exact words, but it was somewhere along those lines. And I go, never contact me again about any reunion, ever. I don't care if it's a goddamn 50-year reunion. I don't want to hear from you. Silly cat. Here she goes again. And I go, do not contact me again or it will get ugly. I am not going to your precious fucking reunion. Fuck you. She ended up writing back anyway. Well, in my defense, we were immature. People change. Excuse me, but I don't think people change that much. I didn't realize that we did so much that, you apparently never forgot what we did and, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, shut the fuck up. Just, why did you write? I told you not to write. And then she's going on and on about, oh, I'm so proud of you. Like I need your goddamn approval. Yeah, you married your high school sweetheart. You stop. Anybody want a cat? She's free to a good home. Yeah, if you're gonna come down here, you might as well say hi to everybody. Look, it's Houdini. Isn't she cute? So she's going on about how proud she is of me and, how amazing it is that I've done my military time and all this shit. Oh, I'm really sorry, I won't contact you again. It's like, good. I did end up going to up to Minnesota earlier that year. You know, it was the end of my terminal leave. Actually, no. Well, yeah, I did end up going up there for my terminal leave. I wanted to see everybody, and then the reunion, I went up in May, beginning of June that year. But the reunion was sometime in July, I think it was. But I sure as fuck was not going to waste my time and my money on a bunch of people who hated me back then. Fuck that. And my 20 years coming up in 3 years. Will I go? No. I mean, some people view that differently. Oh, you know, you should get over bullying, and obviously people who say that have never been bullied. Most of it you do get over. Some small parts of it you don't. I mean, kids don't seem to realize that what they do to someone else will affect them for the rest of their lives. My self-esteem has gotten a bit better, but, I mean, I've learned to embrace my nerdiness. I'm never going to be a model. I'm never going to be a cheerleader type. Fuck that shit. And I have plenty of people out there who do love me for being a nerd, who do love me exactly as I am. And I sure as hell don't need the approval of people I was stuck with for 4 years. No way. But, you know, some people like to go to their reunion, and especially the child-free people, they see a lot of the child-free people in this group that I'm part of. I mean, a lot of them were bullied in school as well. Some of them do go to their reunions and show off their fabulousness. I could do that, but again, why waste all this on a bunch of losers? I honestly think that a lot of people who do go to their reunions, 9 times out of 10, it is the jocks and the cheerleaders. And 9 times out of 10, they look like total shit. I heard that another jock had gained a lot of weight. And, well, he was a football player and a basketball player as well. He thought he was shit hot. But from what I heard, he gained a lot of weight and nobody really cares about him. I would almost pay to see that, but no. And another thing about my high school class, a lot of them married each other. I mean, I could probably count like 10 or 11 couples from the same class. Are there really that many high school sweetheart soulmates? Or are people that afraid of venturing out into the big bad world and finding somebody potentially better? I often wonder about that. And I wonder how happy these couples really are. A lot of them have children. A lot of them have young children. Some have older children. I mean, I often wonder, it's like, how happy are you really that neither of you has gone out, you know, lived life outside of a small town, has never met anybody else. You just stayed together all throughout school and beyond. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm a little cynical, who knows? I mean, I never dated anybody in my high school class. I never went to prom. I never went to the homecoming dances. I never did any of that. I mean, they all made me feel like I was the ugliest piece of shit on the planet. I mean, I had my fantasies of doing a lot of harm to these people. Oddly enough, one of my classmates did commit suicide. I don't know. And that guy was kind of a jerk to me and a bunch of other people. I don't know if he was also being bullied. I don't know if he had issues at home. I mean, who knows? He ended up blowing his brains out, though. And surprisingly enough, I never felt the need to kill myself. If I would have killed myself, they would have won. They would have ultimately succeeded in getting my goat in that sense. So I'm glad I didn't do anything. Besides, I wouldn't have traveled the world and did half the stuff I've done if I would have put a bullet in my head back in high school. I mean, it's temporary, but it feels like forever. It really does. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's true. Especially in small towns. I often wonder how hardcore into sports the high schools are in the inner cities, but I know in small towns that seems like that's all they reflect their revolve their lives around is small town high school sports. And again, with the athletes and all that, it's like, what are you going to do beyond that? There is life after high school. You're not going to be a hotshot high school athlete forever. It just doesn't work that way. Some go on and do it and, do their sports in college, but most don't. They think that those glory days are going to let them sail through life forever. It never works like that. Then the nerds and geeks and all that like me go on and live pretty cool lives. While the asshole jocks just stick around and do nothing. And there was a cheerleader type who's working at a restaurant now. I mean, I'm not necessarily knocking the job or anything. There's nothing wrong with being a waitress or anything like that. I mean, a lot of people could tell you it sucks, though. But that's all this chick's done since she's left high school. I mean, she thought she was just all that, and her good looks were going to get her through forever. She's got terrible crow's feet around her eyes now, and she just looks like shit. Again, I don't have to do anything. Time works its own revenge. Oh yeah, what else? I don't know, I mean, there's just so much I could tell. Oh, in Minnesota we have an all-state band and choir. We have all-state music groups. Just like there's all-state sports. This snotty bitch who was a dentist's daughter, she ended up making all-state tennis in 8th grade as well as throughout high school, so she's done it for 5 years in a row. Big whoop-de-doo. She's now married and living in New York and has a kid. Her husband's cute, it's just he should have had... Sorry. He should have just had better taste in women. Sorry guys, I'm doing this from my laptop, so it's going to get a little shaky. But she thought she was just shit hot because she got tennis. Again, your athletic abilities are not going to last you forever. And there was a girl in a grade below me who thought she was just all that. She played volleyball, she played basketball, she did this and that. Our town also holds a pageant, and she got in the junior miss category one year, so she really thought her shit didn't stink. She was also a talented musician, so she and I were head-to-head in a lot of music stuff. But we were both in community band, and in this particular town, for a high school student to get into community band, you gotta be pretty shit hot. Which we both were, I guess. Except the band director liked her more than me because, well, she was a brass player and I was a woodwind player. But she thought she was just so much better than I am at music. I ended up winning more solo and ensemble contests than she ever could. I was also a bit more versatile. I played clarinet back then, but as any clarinet player could tell you, the fingering for one clarinet goes to all of them. So I ended up playing bass and contralto clarinet throughout school. I used those in music contests. Same with the alto clarinet. I also started playing the saxophone in some of these contests. So I had a little more versatility than she did. I think she played the trumpet and then she played the flugelhorn at one time too. So she and I were like neck to neck in solo contests. And then me, her, and a bunch of other people all ended up trying out for the all-state band. One year I tried out with the bass clarinet and, well, I didn't make it. So I'm thinking, well, a lot of people play bass clarinet in the state, but do a lot of people play the contralto clarinet? So I went ahead and played the contralto clarinet and I got in. Because not a lot of people play it. And I practiced and practiced and practiced and got shit hot on it. And she just kept, and this chick and her ego, I'm surprised she could fit through a door. But once it was announced over the loudspeaker that I made all-state band, I kept thinking, I wonder how badly she's crying. And I hate to do that, but, if you're going to be a snobby little bitch, who thinks she's all that. Just because her family's been in the area forever. You think you're going to be all that, then it's time someone knocked you down a few pegs. I mean, I was going to be in the Navy band, but that didn't exactly pan out. But that's okay. It was my ticket of getting the fuck out of there. Well, out of here, rather. I mean, unlike a lot of my classmates who, probably still bully some people, some of them do. Unlike a lot of my classmates, I actually went out and did shit with my life. I didn't stick around the same town forever and a day. I mean, again, a lot of them realize that, well, if they venture outside of the town, they know they won't be hot shit, no one will know who they are, and no one will care. I do have to mention this. If any of you out there know who Jodee Blanco is, she's a PR person, and she's written a couple books on the subject of bullying. I haven't read her second one on that, but I have read her first one. It's called Please Stop Laughing at Me. I saw this and I decided to pick it up, and I'm like, I bought it and I was going to read it. And I kept reading it, and and I'm thinking, I can't relate to this. I mean, she got to do things that most kids would only dream of as far as dealing with her bullying. Every time she got picked on at a school, she got to switch schools. Her dad was in some kind of business. They were basically either upper middle class or wealthy. So one summer, she got to go to Greece. I've been to Greece myself. She went to Santorini. I've been to Crete a few times. Lovely place. Especially the city of Kanya, and been to Corfu. I first learned to parasail in Corfu. My second time parasailing was in Dubrovnik, Croatia. But anyway, back to that though. I mean, she gets to do all this fancy shit. And as I was reading the book, I mean, she was starting to come across more and more as sanctimonious. I was like, well, no wonder people were picking on you. But it's like she got to switch schools. She got to go on expensive vacations just to relieve the stress. Where I could have killed to switch schools, and I would have been very happy going overseas for a month or so. I think it was a month, however long she was there. And then there was an issue that came up in the book. She had an issue with like her breast development. Like one wasn't growing correctly. She had to wait to get plastic surgery done. And then she finally got a pass to sit out because she's waiting to be approved for the surgery with, this issue. And then she's like, oh, I'm going to start going back to gym class. I mean, what the fuck? If I had something like that going on, and if I had a pass to be out of gym until the surgery is over and done with and whatnot, I would take it in a heartbeat. If you're really as humiliated as you say you were, why subject yourself to more humiliation? Why on earth? Why the fuck would you do that? And especially, since she got all that teasing after, her issue being exposed to everybody. And it's like, then they're all picking on her because of her issue with her breast then. It's like, why would you do this? You're complaining and moaning all throughout your book that you were being picked on so horribly by these evil people. And yet you would expose yourself like that anyway. Why? I mean, that was like one of the few things I found, completely flawed about this book. I would read it mainly as entertainment. I mean, it's definitely not inspirational, and it sure as fuck is not self-help. Well, yeah, and then all throughout the book, she's bragging about how she was Jim Carrey's publicist, how she hung out with Mickey Rooney, and all this and that. You know, how she, hung out with Muhammad Ali, all these famous people. And then she's like, oh, I'm going to go back to my class reunion, my 20-year reunion, and brag about how great I am. And inside she's terrified about the cool kids not approving of her. Fuck that! If you're really happy with your job in PR, screw the reunion! You're hanging out with the real cool people. Fuck those losers who thought they were cool back then. She's like, oh, I'm terrified. I don't know if they're gonna like me after all these years. And me, I could care less if people like me now after all these years. What? Why? What is that teaching the people that are being bullied now? Oh, in the end, all that matters is that the cool kids approve of you years later? No. Fuck the so-called cool kids. They're a bunch of douchebags anyway. A lot of them are miserable, they're insecure, and that's why they fuck with the most vulnerable people. Screw that. I mean, that was one of the things that puzzled me most about this book. About please stop laughing at me. Yeah, all this, complaining and moaning about being bullied. Yes. Being bullied sucks. We know this. But then to turn around and say, oh, even though I have this issue with my body that's going to be surgically corrected, I'm going to say, screw the gym pass, I'm going to start taking showers and going to gym, and, maybe nobody will see my problem. When we all know damn well that teenage girls are very fucking cruel to one another. Especially over body issues, even, especially severe ones like that. I mean, I felt embarrassed about taking gym classes and taking showers with all these girls. It's like, I felt like I was being scrutinized too. And I didn't even have breast issues like that. Fuck that. And then switching schools. I had to sit there and stick with the damn school that I was stuck at. That my parents thought was such a great school because, according to such and such, it was one of the best schools around. Yeah, maybe best, like, education-wise, but socially, it sucked. So no, I did not get to switch schools. I had to be stuck with the same bastards for a few years. But no, she gets to switch schools. She gets to go on expensive vacations. And she gets to do all this and that. She probably bragged at school about how great she was, too. Maybe that's why some of the people were picking on her, but who knows? I mean, it still sickens me, though, that at the end of all this, she's still wanting the approval of people who fucked with her years ago. I am seeking no one's approval. And I'm going to laugh if some of those people are trying to seek my approval, which I could give two shits about. As I did mention, some of them have apologized, but I kind of took it with a grain of salt. I'm just like, whatever. Yeah, if you were really sorry, you wouldn't have done it in the first place. And again, I've had people try to friend me on Facebook. I did stay friends with a few people, but I decided it wasn't worth it. And then seeing that classmate on the bike, I didn't even recognize him at first, then he started talking to me. I gave him like a little update on my life, but I would actually rather not see him again. If I never saw him again, it would be totally fine by me. To all those being bullied, please hang in there. I would love to give you hugs and, tell you that it will get better. I mean, take it from someone who knows. I mean, it just sickens me, though, that more and more kids are committing suicide because of bullying. You got Amanda Todd and Phoebe Prince and, nameless others who've taken their lives because of fucking pieces of shit that they've been stuck with throughout school. It does get better. I'm gonna keep repeating it, but it does. And to any of my classmates out there, I will not go to any reunions, so don't mention any of that shit to me. And if any of you see me, do not acknowledge me. You're dead to me. I don't care two shits about any reunions. I don't care what any of you are doing with your lives. You're fucking non-existent to me. Leave me alone. I've lived my life perfectly fine for 17 years without being friends with any of you. And to any jocks and cheerleaders and preppies who are bullying kids, I hope you die in a fire. Who the fuck do any of you think you are? But guess what? Your days are coming. Whether someone actually gets fed up with your shit and kills you, or whether you end up leading very shitty lives after high school, because guess what? There is life after high school, and your gravy trains are going to come to a screeching halt. So any of you snobby types that think they're the king shit now, you enjoy it while you can. Because after a while, no one's going to give two shits what you did back in high school. And you're going to have to live your lives out like the rest of us mortal men and women. That's just how it is. Rate, comment, subscribe. If any of you have stories to share, just say something in the comments. Or send me a message. So long, everyone.